what was your time in the bail project like? What were you doing? And I might press you on that a little bit because I did a little bit of research and I've seen some people's feedback on organizations that um, go against the cash bail system and their thoughts. So I'd like you to, um, I guess, speak about your time there, and I'll have some additional questions.
For sure. So, yeah, I started my career in finance and investment banking and did that whole bit and just was really not satisfied and saw firsthand how I was fodder to the machine. And so I left that world and tried to reinvent myself, refocus myself, repurpose myself, and found out about the Bail Project through another organization called Data for Black Lives. And so I was really intentional about I want to use my gifts, my talents, my skills, my life force to better my local community and hopefully the global community. And so I moved back home. I started with the Bail Project. The Bail Project is a national nonprofit that operates a revolving bail fund. Community and local bail funds are nothing new. Um, Mutual aid movements have been around for a very long time and have assisted political prisoners and others, either justly or unjustly incarcerated, obtain bail and pretrial freedom. So the concept of taking that bail fund and systematizing it so that it can operate at a national level is what the Bail Project does, as they also combat the systemic causes of litigating and or abolishing cash bail, litigating against cash bail or abolishing it through the legislative system. And so that time showed me that you have to be able to balance multiple priorities. And I think it can be transposed into any other community struggle or political struggle that oppressed people face. You have to address the immediacies of a condition. So in this case, the immediacy that somebody is in jail and they may lose their job, they may not be able to have access to their children. They may lose their home or their living situation just from 48 or 72 hours of being incarcerated. So the immediacy of getting someone out on pretrial bail is important, but then also questioning, does pretrial detention do what we think it does? And does it serve a purpose? And is it benefiting the society in such a way that it outweighs the costs and the human costs of keeping people locked up before they are convicted of a crime? So that's the long term work. That's the work you're seeing in Illinois, which has led to the first state to abolish cash bail after the New York experiment. So it showed me that you have to balance those two things at the same time. You have to run the short game and you have to run the long game. And I can see people's concerns with the philanthropic industry and the philanthropic industrial complex. I can see people's concerns with fear because there's a lot of fear mongering when it comes to bail reform, where folks think that you just let everybody go free and it's chaos, and that's not the case. Especially with the bail project model and the client support model. Ultimately, clients are better off when they're supported outside of a jail cell. So, how we get to a place in which we can support the most people possible is a question of resources and a question of municipal priorities. And so if we will prioritize recovery and mental health and stable housing, then we could probably not have so many people incarcerated. And so it's a trade-off.
No, that's is such great points that you bring up. I especially am. My wheels are spinning, and I'm like, you know what? This is it's interesting because I think for so long we've relied on the state to handle people that are considered detestable or bad or criminal quotes, because oftentimes people can get arrested and spend time in jail for things that they actually haven't done. So how terrible is that? You never get that time back, and you never get the loss back, especially considering the average American. And this is a quotable statistic: the average American cannot afford a $500 emergency. So what happens if you make $100 a day? I've been there, and you are in jail for 5 days. You're done. That's it. You are homeless, and
Mhm.
I don't want to make light of that situation to be um, in a situation where you're fighting for your life and you're like really trying to make it, and then somebody comes and shows up and agents of the state kick in your door, and then that's it. Like for what? I don't know. I saw a little expose of the Bell Project and this lady who was driving without a license, which you need a license to drive. Yes, I understand. Um, that's just the rules of the road, but was driving without a license. You'd think that's like a ticket thing or something like that, maybe. But in addition to that, somebody had some meth in the car. It wasn't her car, but somebody had meth in the car. Was it her? Was it the other guy? We don't know. I mean,
Mhm.
possession of drugs, the war on drugs, that's another question. That's another a social issue
Mhm.
that we're tackling. So many people are becoming more okay with the idea of certain substances just not being criminalized per se. But there is also the issue of the thoughts of is the bail project creating a more dangerous situation by getting these dangerous criminals on the street? What are the criteria that you guys look at?
Yeah. So, not a current employee, so I cannot, be a spokesperson for
Yes.
the organization now,
Yes, I
but
understand.
I still
What were
believe in
some
the
of them?
mission. I still believe in what they do and stand for. I do think that it serves ultimately it is the righteous cause, it is the right thing to do. But in terms of the support model and how things were done, there was an intake process. There is a background screening. There are certain guidelines in which bail disruptors follow in terms of previous charges and people becoming disqualified because of a pattern of charges, especially as it concerns domestic violence. So, yes, there's always that consideration. However, if a judge sets a bond, that judge has deemed that person eligible for release. So it's never a matter of should this person be released or not. The judge, by setting a bond, has said that person is eligible for release. Now, whether they can pay that money is a different question. And so, bail does not make us safer in terms of rich white murderers that are able to pay a bond and are now back on the street versus someone who has been arrested for a substance related charge or uh, any other municipal offense, which in everyday life you would say this should not be arrestable, an arrestable offense. That's where the disparities come in, and that's where the human cost comes in. So I always want to point out that the system has said that this person is not a threat or a danger because they've set a monetary value that that person can be released.
That is such an interesting, I guess, concept. I mean, the concept of bail is so interesting anyways. It's like, okay, yeah, you are accused of assaulting this woman. You are accused of evading police or different things. And the idea, I suppose, like the pie in the sky steel man idea is like, hey, if we at least hold something that you consider valuable, your money, you'll at least be likely to come back and then face your
Mhm.
trial. Try not to do anything stupid now between now and then. And so it is some sort of an incentive system to kind of do right and be here for when we ask you to be here. Even though in the world of trials, your right to a speedy trial. I wish they would have written that out somewhere because a speedy trial can be a year from now. Like, come on, like,
Yeah, no, and that is speedy, especially if we talk about any sort of
right?
side offense. Yeah,
No, but
yeah. The bail is to ensure that you return to court, and that there are other ways to do that. Right, the juvenile system here in Louisiana, a parent can put up 10% of that bail, and the state will hold it. And then after the case is completed, they get the 10% back. So I don't see why that model couldn't be applied to the adult carceral system if we are genuinely concerned about folks coming back and we don't want to pillage already um, overtaxed, impoverished, making it on. I think the median income in my 70802 zip code is $26,000 or something like that. So these folks can't afford a $10,000 bail or even $1,000 bail because that means you have to have 12% liquid now. So it's a sham. And if we were truly concerned about reducing crime, we would provide people with the services that they need.
yeah, and you look at court fees, and court fees are ridiculous. I had a parking ticket. No, it was a speeding ticket, just because I had an Altima, and if you have an Altima, you're gonna get a speeding ticket. Stereotypes,
Mhm.
but it's interesting that yeah, so there's the bail system where you have to give the court money, and I think I've heard that they can even keep a certain amount of the money after you've kind of come back, even if you, I
They
guess, even
they
if you
cut
beat the case.
off
And,
every bond.
yeah,
Hmm.
and then of course you pay a speeding ticket. There's a ticket, and then there's the court fees. Why not just have one flat fee? I mean, I don't know. People they
I
gotta have a
love
little
this.
line item, let you know.
Start to question the user pay system and who it ultimately impacts.
Uh, I I don't know. The world spins because of money. It seems,
Hmm.
and it's really just interesting to see how, especially now that we have like these global conflicts happening, and there's a lot of money moving back and forth. It's like where does money even come from? Like, what's the point? If you could just print more, just give yourself more. I don't
Right.
know. I'm tripping
Well, it's
because
because we no longer have the fiat to back it up. But it's that speaks to the history of bond, right? Bond was a pledge of land that only landowners could make, or if you had someone a surety to vouch for you, then you would be eligible for bond.
mm,
And so it is a carryover of that system of, okay, well, since not everybody has a title or a deed to a house, and that's a whole other economic situation, we
right,
will extract wealth through the bond system, through because it's an insurance contract.
sure, yeah.
And so, yeah,
Yeah, so I suppose we've already dealt with the concept that we're letting these violent um, um, humans back on the street. How dare you? I've seen the comments. I looked at I looked through the comments just to see what people are saying. People who are passionate enough to leave a comment. What are they saying? They're like, you guys are the cause. When I say you guys, the former company that you used to work for,
yes.
organization, um, are the cause of crime rising. And I'm like, probably not. And but I have spoken on this show to domestic violence victims and people who have gone through stuff. I have family members who have been robbed at weapon point, and the question is like, okay, so this person who has been stalking you, this person who has been this and this and that, the judge is created. The judge has kind of put them in a situation where, by happenstance of them having no money and no assets, they will be away from this person. The girl who's running from this crazy abuser, um, they will have some relief. But now the org has stepped in, and obviously, like you said, if there's like a history, then you guys won't get involved. It's like, okay, this person is a problem. They're a menace to society. This is a poor use of donor funds. But some abusers, it's their first time,
Sure.
and They don't need a second time before it's a murder
That's
charge.
the point. Crime is unpredictable.
Yeah.
So I'll give you the organizational answer. It's either we support that folks are innocent until proven guilty, or they're not.
Yeah.
And so we start to make a distinction between violent and nonviolent crimes. And as a victim of domestic violence and survivor of domestic violence, I get it. It's different. And Louisiana has a particularly heinous and troublesome problem with domestic violence, and there's a whole bunch of cultural aspects there. But um, I get it. I get it. It's alarming for a victim to think that the judge let him out, or this bail project folks bailed him out. I would have folks that called me and their son or daughter or whomever was charged second-degree murder, first-degree murder. Granted, we didn't do cases like that, but crying for us to bail these folks out. And I can't say that one, that person did it. Baton Rouge only has a 50% homicide solve, closure rate. And so I don't even know if the police did a good job in identifying the particular suspect, but um, there's somebody that wants that person out.
Yeah.
And that's somebody's son and that's somebody's daughter. And they're assuring me that, and especially Louisiana laws and the accessory laws, in which somebody can quickly be wrapped up into a situation that looks like first degree murder, but they really just drove the car, or they sent a text message, or they did this or did
Yeah.
that.
You
That
get caught up real quick.
and so they're not a murderer, but they do fall victim to the pretty draconian system that we have here. So
Yeah. The prison industrial complex and all the
yeah, so
attaching.
so I get it, but the data does not support that bail reform increases crime. The data does not support that um, bail fund organizations uh, disproportionately affect recidivism rates, or if anything, 93% of our clients showed up to court, had their cases resolved one way or another. 43% of our clients in Baton Rouge had their cases dismissed. And so that tells me that the case was never valid to be prosecuted to begin with.
Yeah.
And so we're just holding all elements of the system accountable. If we're going to keep dangerous people in jail, let's keep dangerous people in jail. But let's not overextend ourselves trying to throw the book at the addict who needs rehab.
Right.
Um,
And I suppose that's a
Meanwhile,
better question. Is how do you
there are
you
real
know
gun, issues, or violence issues that could be solved.
yeah. And thank you for sharing that. And I think that that does, I guess, beg the questions like, okay, what do we want to like? How much tax dollars are we putting into keeping an addict in a state-run prison or a private-run facility or something? And I don't know the exact pathway to actually end up in like a
Yeah,
facility that's like long-term, the big boy stuff.
yeah, jail
But
versus prison.
pardon.
I said just jail versus prison.
Right, right. So I mean, ending up in jail, like, how much money are we spending keeping this person in jail for them to come out and kind of have the same problems when they need like a serious form of rehab, when they need community support, when they need, some of the shame that comes with getting taken in, but also they need some of the support and community, I guess, togetherness that comes with like, hey, now certain family members know. Now there's a system. Now there's maybe organizations that are paid for not by the state and by tax dollars, but by people who are concerned and want to give towards, uh, um, such as the Bill Project, where it's like, okay, it's
Yeah.
not just tax dollars being used for one more project. It's the people deciding where they want to put their hard-earned money. So that's cool, and I appreciate you kind of clarifying that.